Truly hard to believe we're nearly a month into the 2023 Big Ten football season, but the calendar tells us we finished 3 weeks of play, so the math says it's true. Welcome into the Monday Coaches Press Conference edition of Big Ten Live. I'm Rick Pizzo. Over the course of the next 3 hours, we look back on the weekend that was, and then we look ahead to what awaits all the teams in the Big Ten following their Week 3 action. We will start our conversation today in Minneapolis. PJ Fleck and the Gophers had an awfully tough road trip down to Chapel Hill to take on North Carolina and one of the top quarterbacks in the country in the Tar Heels' Drake May. Gophers fought hard but came up short. So we start our press conference coverage with PJ Fleck and the Gophers. Darius Taylor is your back-to-back Big Ten Freshman of the Week, of course, after he won the award for the first time Minnesota was tasting victory. This time, he wins the award despite a loss. Let's head to the Twin Cities. Here is his head coach, PJ Fleck.
All right, I appreciate everybody coming. Appreciate you showing up. Obviously, disappointing loss out at North Carolina and Chapel Hill. Really good football team. They're going to win a lot of games in the ACC. They were in the ACC championship last year. But when you look at coming back, I think everybody had that bad feeling in their stomach because we felt we coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? They deserve a lot of credit. They did a lot of things that made them win that football game, but we didn't play particularly well. And that's why I love this football team. They know that, and there's a difference. And it was a mixture of both. I mean, got to give them credit, but there's a lot of things that we could have done way better to make it a better football game on our end, and all you had to do was execute. And I think our players saw that on film, and that's what's really hopeful. Sounds like coach speak, but you go back as a coach and you sit there and go, is it scheme? Is it players? Are we asking them to do too much? Is it coaching? Is it teaching? What is it? And then when you look at it, you say, okay, these are all the things that were right there that are very easy that we can correct. And that's why I told you we can be a really good football team. But there's this inexperience that needs to continue to be developed. And that's when you have inexperienced players at really key positions, that's what at times you're going to have. And that's not what anybody wants, but everybody has their warts. Everybody has something that you have to be able to grow and develop in. And whether that's injuries or whether that's youth or whether that's an experience, whether that's a full young team. You know, Mac Brown talked about them being an older team. That was an older team versus a team that had some inexperience at some key positions, which were exposed and were saw when you play a top 20 team. So nobody has their head down. Our guys were in yesterday. I mean, they were ready to roll. Had a great day of practice. Had a great day of meetings. And, look forward to finding a way to be 1-0 this week. So with that, open up for questions.
PJ, when you look at kind of the lack of explosive plays, you talk about execution needing to improve. What other things do you feel like contribute to that?
Execution sounds like a really cheap answer back to you, but it's truly just throwing it to the open guy. And it's, we're that close. If you go back and watch the film, we're a foot off on most throws. It's a little bit behind them. I can have 4 or 5 of those. We miss a read, which is an explosive play. We were off by about a foot on another explosive throw. And these are the small increments that cost you a game versus a top 20 team. It costs you the explosive plays. We're not far off, but it's not easy to win, and it's not easy to score points against really good defenses. We've played 2 Power 5 teams with good defenses. And I'm not saying that it's not correctable, because it is. But this is part of the journey and the process of playing some young players at some very young positions. Darius Taylor is a really good player. I think I've stated the obvious. Was it announced? Yes. I mean, Big Ten Freshman of the Week twice in 3 games. He's very good. But if you analyze his runs, there are so many things that he can do so much better. But you see the 138 or you see the 193, so you're like, okay, he's fine. No, he's got to develop just like everybody else. And we can be even better in the run game if we would do just X, Y, and Z. We're that close there. Well, as a quarterback, as Ethan stated in his press conference, he's got no problem taking accountability. But he's, 8th game total and first year being a starter? I mean, if you expected that to come out like Joe Montana all of a sudden just because, you got to go through the failing. There's a step of being a developmental program. You cannot skip failing. And I'm talking about game time failing. I'm not talking about spring ball practice 4 failing. I'm not talking about, spring game failing. I'm talking about live game rep failing. It's the only way you grow. And as a developmental program, I choose to go through that. Some people don't choose that. That's okay. That's not right or wrong. I choose to run this program through a developmental program way, and you're going to have those. I said that at the beginning of the year. I said that in January to all of you. We have really good experience, and then we have inexperience. What does inexperience breed? There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. There's going to be some failings, right? How high and how drastically down those are, that's up to us. But to answer your question, Andy, we're that close. I mean, I was told a long time ago, though, as a player, in the NFL, the best advice when I was a rookie, they came in and said, hey, man, if you're close, you get cut, almost get you fired. I was like, wow, thanks. Have a great day. That was the best advice. But that's the margin for error. If we connect on a few of those, it's a different game, but we didn't. Why didn't we? And that's what we go back and analyze. And when I say developmental, there's 3 things that go into that. One, you constantly tell somebody what they're proud of, right? What they should be proud of, because that's the past. Like, look at all the things you've done to get to this point. So when you're developing someone, whether it's a player, a kid, a family member, a friend, you got to tell them what you're proud of them for already. What have they done, right? The second thing is you got to tell them what they're grateful for right now. Like today, be grateful for getting better. Like you get to be coached today. You're coachable, right? Meaning you're taking that teaching and you're going to apply it for the future. So the gratefulness is about now. And then the last part's about the excited part for the future. You're taking that coachability and you're saying, man, I can be that. And that's what's so exciting. That's development. So when somebody sits there and says, well, you talk about developmental program, what are you talking about? To me, those are the 3 things that go into a developmental program, go into developing a player. And that's what we're doing with all of our young people right now. And I always say the word kids, and some people say, coach, they're not kids. They're still kids. They're somebody's kid, right? They're someone's kid, right? They'll always be somebody's kid when they're 70-some years old, right? I mean, you're all somebody's kid, and especially 18 to 22 years old. So as we're developing them, we're that close. And I know I probably just answered a lot of your questions within one answer. It's more of an opening statement, Andy, but you opened the can of worms. But that's what I mean when I say that. I mean, you have to be able to go through those. You got to be proud, you got to be grateful, and you got to give them the excitement to look forward to. And it's constantly happening around you. So again, we got a lot of work to do, and that's what's really exciting for the future. We're a 2-1 football team. We're 0-0 back to this week and playing another conference opponent.
What type of growth have you noticed from Jack Anderson as he's gained some experience in the system here?
He's a really good player. He's a lot of fun. You talk about a young man who loves football. We brought him in, and the reason why we brought him in, and he's from Southeast Louisiana, and the reason why we brought him in was we just loved how he played football. He loved football. You got to keep bringing people in that love football. It's getting harder and harder, right? With if you listen to just things on the outside to love anything. It's always a reason why not to love it, to not be excited, right? To not be joyful. Everybody's going to give you a reason not to love football. I mean, it's hard to get people to love football because it is so hard. He loves it. And as we keep developing players and bringing players in, that's what we're going to look for. But he has gotten better in his coverage. He's gotten better in his striking. He's gotten way better at just understanding his role in the system. It's a little more complex from where he came from. And he struggled with that a little bit in the spring. But you can see the growth mentally, physically, emotionally. I mean, that young man's always got a smile on his face. And if you put any gumbo in front of him, it's like a massive smile. Now he's figured out, I think, the one place that has really good gumbo in the Twin Cities, probably different than Louisiana, but the jambalaya, the gumbo, I mean, he loves all that stuff. So I think he's adapting a little bit to our version of it.
Yeah, this probably goes back to something you talked about before, but
Sure, I'll repeat myself, Dave. Don't worry.
Oh, good.
I'm ready for you.
What goes into the decision on selecting the game uniform from week to week? You've got quite a variety there, and is the black color particularly popular with the players? I suspect it is.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with this. Comparisons steal your joy. First of all, comparison is a killer. Like it is, right? So Our traditional colors are maroon and gold, period. Always will be, always will be, always will be. No one's taking that away. You look at, Ohio State, traditional, yes or no, Dave? They have a black uniform? Yes, the answer is yes. Okay, they are not only traditional and winning national championships in the 60s, right? They're winning them in recent modern-day football. They have black uniforms. Florida Gators, did they have black uniforms the other day? Sure did. I can go on every team. This isn't about, no offense to any of us, okay? And I get tradition, right? I'm here to uphold that tradition, okay? We haven't changed the mascot. We haven't changed the name. We haven't changed the colors. We're adding a little flavor to it. That's all, because it's all about the players. Everything we do is about the players that are on that field. The student athletes love it. Our student body loves it. The young people love it. And I get it. But that's why every week we do something a little different for everyone, right? Because if we weren't doing it, the other side would be calling for it. It's part of leadership. That's why we go through every week. Our players get to have a piece and a voice to what we wear. So this isn't like, hey, blame our players. This isn't that. They get a meeting with myself and our equipment manager. He lays out all these combinations. Now, they don't get to see the new added selection. They didn't get to see the black uniforms. I think they had a feeling they were coming because we might have given them a little bit of an appetizer about it in the offseason. But they get to pick the combinations. Right? Again, having your team, I have a leadership council, I have a board of directors within our team. That our players have a massive voice within these walls. And I want them to feel really good about what they do, how they look, how they present themselves on the field, off the field, in their uniforms. And it's something that they wanted. And I don't think there was, one email from our players that said I didn't like those. And that's with no disrespect to our fans. We have the best fans, and we have the best supporters. I had a lot of emails about it, and I feel it. I appreciate that. But I also got just as many, if not more, about how much people liked them. But again, it's about the student athletes. Everything we do is about the student athletes, so we can connect our past to our present and then connect it into the future of future Gophers. And I think our recruits really liked them too. So with all due respect, that's what we're looking at. I'm involved in that. I like that type of stuff too. So that's just part of our program. But thank you for asking.
Well, I've been asked about it.
Oh, you have? I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. I have too.
Have I missed anything with Penn State?
I gave you examples of the ones that I knew who have. You can find ones who definitely probably haven't. But I think that's just part of the 2023 is alternate uniforms. You can go on Madden, right? And I don't play Madden, but you can go on Madden and create all new uniforms for traditional NFL teams, right? You can go create uniforms and make combinations and bring back all those types of things. And so, I'd love to have a new uniform every single week that would fulfill every single one of our fans' fantasies about what we should wear. I would. You want us to go back to the 1960s? Throw some uniforms at us, find somebody to donate them, boom, we'll put them on our guys. As long as they're passed by Nike and Nike creates them, whatever it is, we'll put them on them. I'm with you. I'd love to be able to do it every single week. I love that part. I can't believe this is great, though. I'm just going to keep talking because what it's doing to all of you is like, all right, wait, can we get to the next question? Dave, I'd like to talk more about uniforms, actually. So to the cleats, they're specifically – I'm just kidding. Anyway, but listen, I hear you. I hear the emails. I see the emails. But I thought they looked tremendous the other night under the lights. I did, and I thought our players loved them. And that's what matters to me. Not that our fans' voice doesn't. It matters. And we'll be back to some traditional colors all throughout the year.
Just as Brevin's first three.
Northwestern. A.J. Henning is kind of their X factor.
Yeah.
He runs out of the shotgun. He catches passes, returns punts, returns kickoffs.
Yeah.
Michigan bred.
Yeah.
We're kind of challenged as a multi-dimensional.
He produces a huge challenge. He's one of the most dynamic players in the Big Ten. He is, and they use him in all facets of what they do offensively, special teams. They're going to do everything they can to get the ball in his hands as many times as they can get it. Whether they got to snap it to him, they got to punt it to him, they got to throw it to him, they got to hand it to him, and that's the sign of a really good player. You get the ball in his hands, and he produces a lot of challenges for us this week, and And that's what today's all about. Getting into that film as we were last night and finding ways to be able to control him.
How would you assess Brevin's first 3 games, and how do you get him going?
I think he's been okay. I think he'd tell you the same thing. It's not about just getting him going. It's about just getting him to play better, in all areas of his game. I think he's played really well at times, and then times he hasn't played so well. It's just a consistency, and that's the whole thing with this football team is just getting everybody consistent. And that's especially offensively. Consistency is the key. There's things that we're doing that you game plan. You're like, can we do this? Absolutely, we can do this. We wouldn't put anything on the field that we feel like they couldn't do. But then the data shows you what we can and cannot do. And then you can figure out why you can't do it. And then if there's a way you can correct it, you keep it in and you keep it going. If there's a way you can't correct it, you throw it out. But I think he's been okay. And I think he'd tell you the same thing. I think he wants to be able to play better. And that's the expectation when you become a really good player on our football team, is to play better and, prepare, perform, go out there, be the best you can be. But there's been a lot of things he's done that has been really good. And then some things that, we got to be able to get better at.
Can you talk about the growth or the evolution you've seen from Harbaugh from last year to this year and just the steps he's taken with the new defensive line coach?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great example of new, right? Anything new. And again, everybody can do it at different levels. I think last year he was just learning the system. I think now he's been able to, in his own mind, master the system. He knows his role within the system. He knows his ability. Playing up from where he came from is a challenge for some people. They play at that level and they get up to this level and you're skipping steps. There's a lot of group of 5 that you're skipping to get to a Power 5 team when you are coming from an FCS school. That can be really difficult. That can be a huge jump for a lot of people. And I think last year he kind of went in between that. I think he was really good at times and then sometimes inconsistent. Really good at times, really inconsistent. This year, I mean, you can see the confidence growing and growing. Again, goes back to that development piece of the stages, and he's been able to do that really well. He's one of the hardest workers. He's one of the best players on our team. There's no coincidence of that. But you can see that he knows he can play at this level, and he has confidence that he can play at this level. He's not finding out if he can do it, and I think that's one thing that you see with him, and he's been able to dominate up front and dominate his role.
Take 1 or 2 more. After looking at the film, what did you feel about your offensive line split?
I thought they played tremendous. I thought if you go back and you just watch the run game, I thought we controlled the line of scrimmage. I thought that, which was great for me to see because you didn't do it in one game. And you didn't get enough data. There wasn't enough data in game 1, but you didn't in the data that you had. Game 2, you did, but it was a different opponent. And then you play a top 20 team and you did, right? And so I felt really good about where we are coming out of that game. And again, you're finding out your football team as you go through and play. NFL teams are finding out about it. Top 25 teams are finding out about it. Alabama's finding out about their team. Everybody's finding out about their team, and you're getting more data as you go. The goal of every team is just keep getting better. Just keep getting better every week. I know it sounds cliche, it sounds corny, it's coach speak, but that's what this whole program's designed on. And if you go back and you look at our data, usually the beginning of the year, we're getting better as the games go on. We're getting better towards the end of the year. That's what we preach. That's what we coach. That's what we teach. That's how we train to just keep getting better. Keep changing your best. Keep rowing the boat, right? And use failing as growth. And we already talked about the development piece of that. So continuous development, period. And we'll do everything we can to keep that going, especially up front, because we got a lot of room for improvement. But again, as you go back, same thing as we talked about, there's a lot of meat left on the bone in the run game. There's a true freshman back there running. He's very talented, but he's got a lot to learn. We have an inexperienced quarterback. He's got a lot to learn. There's been some times he's done some amazing things that you all see why that hope is there, that coachability is there, that want to is there, right? And then there's some times you're like, okay, this is why he's young. This is why he's inexperienced. And that comes out. And you can either throw that out or you can keep investing. And you all know me. You keep investing. You keep investing. He's got incredible talent. And he's an amazing young man. And he's learning how to be able to do it all. And I know we want it done faster. And so does he. And he knows. That's why in his press conference, I even had to talk about his press conferences. I didn't talk to him prior to that. I mean, that's the type of kid he is. He cares so much about leading this football team. And I love that about him. We can work with that. And, he'll get better as the year goes on. And you can see we're not, didn't throw that. We're not throwing it again. Nope. I've done that before. I mean, I think you can all say that. We're committed to the strength and changing how we do things. Not just to do it because it's best for this football team. We're committed to doing it.
We're going to finish with Mike Grimm.
Offensively, Northwestern, what do you see from them?
Well, we just got going last night on it. So, I think, they've got weapons and they know how to be able to put them in position. And, number one's a dynamic player, and they're going to do everything they can to put the ball in his hands. They're going to do everything they can to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. They're going to do everything they can to run the football any way they possibly can. You can tell that team has come close together. I mean, even maybe I'm not saying closer than they've been because I can't compare it to anything, but you can tell there is no quit in that team. They play their tail ends off from the start till the end. I mean, it looks like a Northwestern football team with how hard they play from the beginning to the end, period. And, again, as we keep going, I mean, number one just keeps popping out constantly. And, as we go game plan throughout today, it's only Monday morning, but we'll know a heck of a lot more as we keep going through.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Coach.
Got any more uniform questions? What's that? We might actually do that. And Dan can or Dave can get you can take a poll, Dave's poll. What would you like to see? You just got to give me some days out so we can get that done for you. What's that?
My rate is reasonable.
Oh, your rate. You got. We'll tell that to Brady Gagnon. Thanks, everybody.
PJ Fleck really enjoying those uniform conversations, certainly enjoying the performance of Darius Taylor. He is the first Minnesota true freshman to rush for more than 100 yards in consecutive games in 20 years since, how about that name, Lawrence Maroney did it in November of 2003. The news that Matt Rhule just shared about the running backs room, both Ramir Johnson and Gabe Ervin are out for the season after shoulder and hip injuries, respectively. Defensive back Dwight Boodle, who busted up his shoulder, is also done for the year. Michigan undefeated as expected throughout 3 weeks of non-conference play. Kind of a slow start against Bowling Green, but the Wolverines got it going late. 31-6 is the final. Michigan has now won 18 straight home games as the Wolverines get set to start Big Ten play this coming week. They'll be big-time favorites in their first Big Ten game. They take on Rutgers at home. It's a game that you can see right here on the Big Ten Network starting at noon Eastern. For much more on everything Michigan related, it's time to hear from Jim Harbaugh, who ends his school-imposed 3-game suspension and will be back on the sidelines this week when the Wolverines host the Scarlet Knights.
Tremendous question. Appreciate that. Really, so much would be so much to unpack there. From other coaches stepping up, other staff stepping up, other players stepping up, and just the amount, of leadership bonds that were necessary, were created, all the tremendous positives that came from that. I know I've told you this before, but Moses had 70 leaders. How many do we need? A lot, more, and that really created an opportunity to do that. The from my perspective, I went to a place I'd never been, which wasn't on the sideline, as a player or a coach, and at a friend's house, Sharon's house, 1 week, the other week, watching the game at my house last weekend, traveling, watching the game on a computer. So, yeah, it did quite a bit, seeing the game in a different way, through a different lens. I think it's made me a better coach, and as a result, going to implement some new things that haven't done as it relates to just a few policies around here to make sure I don't ever get sidelined again. Ramping that up to a just a gold standard, and also how we watch the game as an offense. Watching it on TV, and you can see the things, and I think when I'm there, just to explain it, how I see it in my mind is when I'm there and I'm in it, and I'm you're doing everything in real time, and more telling people what to do, how you see it, and the perspective of, for them to see it, for them to watch it, And then, hey, what'd you do right? What'd you do wrong? How did you see this? I'm just kind of excited about that, implementing that today. So, yeah, just a ton of positives. And, man, if I seem a little bit distracted, it's because I got so much on my mind. And hopefully we can keep this a little bit short because there's so much to do. And it's real positive. You know, you watch the game, and you know, so many feelings of, hey, just win the game. As I'm watching that, like by one point is what we're really after. And don't know if maybe, you know, watching it from the perspective I had, like maybe there's been too much put on the players of they got to win by 40 points or 30 points or, you know, 25 points. That's a lot. And, you know, make sure our team knows that's the goal, is to win the game. You know, next is that and you pray for this and you hope for this, is that you come out of the game with no injuries. And then it's where you start to get greedy. And you know, I want defense to be, you know, the best. I want the offense to be the best. I want the special teams to be the best. Then I get even more greedy. You know, I want each position group, you know, to be the best, and then each individual player to be the best. And hey, that's what we want. That's where we want to go. That's what we want to be about. And so we're going to chase that. We're going to keep chasing that perfection.
On the left, Chris. Can you assess the defense after 3 games and what you've seen from them overall?
Yeah, you talk about being happy for the other guy's success. Happy for you know, the shining, you know, light that our defense was in this game, and it was you know, tremendous performance. I mean, you know, some of the numbers. I mean, it's got to be I think it is the number 1 scoring defense in the country right now. So not hard to figure out. We've given up 15 points in 3 games. 3 games. That's 5.3 points a game. You know, you dive into it a little bit deeper. 33 possessions, 1 touchdown, 3 field goals. That's some good division. You go there, it's like 0.45 per drive. You know, just phenomenal. And you know, guys being the difference maker, players stepping up. You know, calling it Guardians of Victory now. Chris Jenkins, you know, that interception that he made. The way Jalen Harrell's playing, again, another week where he's the tone setter. Sack, caused a fumble, tackles, had the rush, had the pressure, led to an interception. You know, tremendous. Quentin Johnson, you know, Guardian of Victory, gets that, you know, just squashed the momentum right before the half there, and really set us up well. Player, you know, he gets a game ball, Guardian of Victory sticker for defense, but also he's game ball player of the game on special teams. He had a rep against their best player, remarkable, one of the best reps that we have ever seen. Had a tackle and you know, crushing it. So happy for him. Cam Good, 3 tackles, 1 sack, and Rayshon Benny, great to see his performance, 3 tackles, and 1 assist and 1 TFL. Really good scoring defense, number 1, total defense, number 2, and the other cool stat. Bunch of them, 10 tackles for loss in the past 2 games. 17 players have contributed to 24 tackles for a loss, and 8 guys part of the 9 sacks, and 250 yards, less than 250 yards in all 3 games. So, you know, continued really great play. felt the same way about the special teams, just how hard they played. Our guys were playing all out. Minus the one fumble. It was really good. Tommy Dolman continues to be super impressive in handling everything that he does. Offense, gosh, I was, the game's over. They're happy, sad, especially about the turnovers. And but then, really watching the tape, just start getting fired up because you see the positives. I mean, we won, and there's so much to learn from. Then I was walking through the building yesterday, and we have a quote of the day every day by a player, sometimes by a staff member, but mostly by players. Ike Iwanyu's was up there, and it said, "I never lose. I either win or I learn." And there we go. We got to win, and we get to learn.
On the left, or Isaiah?
Cornelius Johnson had that kind of highlight catch for the touchdown.
Uh-huh.
It seems like he's in the past been kind of a boom or bust player, but this year so far he's been so consistent. How have you seen him kind of move to this place where he's able to make big catches consistently?
Yeah, he's put together three really good games in catching the ball and making plays and making big plays. Challenged him last week to be a better blocker, on the perimeter, and he was, as were all of our wide receivers. And Roman Wilson again, the way he's blocking, all 3 games, and the production, getting open. I mean, everything has been great. I thought our perimeter blocking emphasized it, practiced it, and our guys really came through in that area.
On the left, Aaron.
Jim, just a few minutes ago, you said you're going to implement some new policies to make sure you're never sidelined again. You mind sharing what those are?
Yeah, well, one of them's, just the analysts and making sure that there's just absolutely no coaching whatsoever. And you say that over and over to guys, and it's just that natural coaching instinct. And they gotta protect us. I want to protect them. I want to protect me. And we've done an incredible job. I mean, gone to the nth degree to follow every rule. But just actually watching the game and not being on the sideline. I saw it from a different perspective. And man, here's what we could do to make it even better. So implementing that. I was just talking about some of the things different perspectives that Larry asked about.
On the left, Tony.
No, Big Ten play, Rutgers.
Yeah.
I think people think their defense first. They've also gotten off to a good start on that side of the ball. What have you seen from them?
Yeah, really good. With tremendous respect we have for the Scarlet Knights, for Coach Schiano, the way they bring it when they play us and anybody, and the way they're playing this year, playing really good defense. Gavin Winstead playing really good football, and they're running the ball, really effectively. So we know that's part of the stuff. You ask me, hey, what are you doing? You seem out of breath. You're doing a lot on the plate right now. Getting ready for Rutgers.
On the left, John.
As you can, you can understand. If you've watched them play, they're good.
John.
What did you see on the interceptions, and do you have a message for people that are inclined to panic the first time there's a little adversity like that?
Yeah, I mean, you've always asked me, what's scary good? And sometimes I say scary good. Gosh, it's scary good right now. What does that mean? Scary good that's where you want to be. But law of averages is going to catch up to you at some point, and you do what you can, to keep those balls in the air. I mean, They want to come down. I mean, so yeah, where were we? Where were we just at? We were comparing touchdowns to incompletions ratio. We weren't talking touchdowns to interceptions because there hadn't been any. I mean, there's no way that's going to continue. I mean, it's not going to happen that way. But yeah, there's some things as a player. I mean, you want confident, you want aggressive, optimistic, that everything's going to work out. And there's a little bit of, sometimes even as a football player, optimistic bias that can get you in trouble. Sometimes leave you unprepared. Certainly does in life. Now in football or athletics, I mean, you're much better off there than playing scared. It works out better when you play that way. But yeah, some precautions got to be taken and some risks avoided. And turnovers, the ball security. That's the big one. So plenty to learn from, plenty to coach, and yeah, super excited about it. I mean, JJ's smart enough to know he didn't play a very good game, but he's also smart enough to know that he can learn from it as well.
All right, Dennis.
You said being optimistic with the interceptions. Did you what would you see in the film when you watch them? And I know publicly you said, let it rip to JJ.
Yeah.
Do you have to, do you tell them they keep letting it rip, or what do you say to them?
Yeah. I mean, specifically let it rip, but see the throw, see the completion is critical, and having a good, being in a good base. And yeah, one came with, eye discipline broke down for JJ, and then he let it rip without seeing the throw or seeing the completion. Threw another one off his, kind of like a fadeaway jumper that he didn't have to fade away on it. That one did not get intercepted. Could have. Throwing it right over a defensive tackle that got tipped and was actually a completion. But, there's no question that, I like analogies. So I think I'm the coach I am today because I had so many great coaches that I learned from. And believe me that so many, and just pretty much did what they did, But also, coaching times and coaching events where, oh, I'm not doing that. That's what you don't do, And that's when you learn the most. You learn what not to do. Same thing as a player. You'd have success, and you learn from that. But there's things that you do. Say it's I played quarterback, so eye discipline or footwork, and you get away with it, and it's a positive outcome. You don't learn really that as much, because you think, okay, I can do that and still have a positive outcome. It's when you don't have the right foot discipline, eye discipline, or footwork, and then the bad things happen. Now it's seared into your brain. You learn more from the mistakes. Same I think the same as it was in coaching, it is in playing. What not to do sometimes, you learn the most.
Time for about three more. I think we got Reiner, Angelique, and Ryan. So we'll go with Reiner.
Yeah, based on what you've seen for the first 3 weeks versus maybe the last couple of years, what do you see the same about this team? What do you think is different?
Yeah, it's. I see that we're very close to getting there in areas. I think we're, really improved in a lot of areas. Run game is one where I go, man, there's a Michigan play right there, where all 11 are doing their job exactly how they're supposed to be doing it. And that was an 8-yard gain, and that's a beautiful thing, right? But just not enough of them yet. It's it's not enough of those type plays, and matter of getting all 11. Sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's 10. We had one play where it was like 6. That's really bad. So just getting it all humming. I know it's super close, and big week for us to learn, to emphasize, to practice, to plan too. We gotta do things we're learning as coaches. But we gotta put the best plan for our team, our offense. These playmakers that we have in Roman, CJ, Tyler Morris is coming out, but Colston Loveland. I mean, he's the go-to guy. Blake, Donovan, putting them all in the position to be successful. So planning, practicing, then executing.
I know you mentioned that it's about winning the game, but how much is it about the process to win the game? What the process that you go through to actually win the game. I mean, how much do you believe in that?
How much? I mean, so much. As much as I can, much as that it's possible. Yeah, that's what I believe in that. I believe in planning, practicing, and then executing.
Angelique?
Jim, was Miles hurt, and what did you think of the reconfigured line with Carson and Ladarius?
First thing that jumps out, Ladarius really played well. I was really happy how he got in there and performed. And every starter on the offense, I'm not going to stand up and say I believe in them. I do. They know it. I think we got a heck of a group there, and we'll just keep planning, practicing, and executing.
Was Miles injured though, or was the decision to move him out and bring in a new look?
I don't know exactly.
Can I ask you about Rod?
I'll find out.
Rod and Will, when you think they might be to that back?
Again, I don't know. We'll see everybody today. We'll get on the practice field today.
Is Will close?
I don't know. It means I really don't know. I'm telling you the truth. I don't know.
Last question, Ryan.
I was going to ask something similar, but I guess you mentioned a few weeks ago about wanting to see more revenue sharing with the players and wanting to get more people in the room. Have you seen any movement on that and any more discussion about that?
Yeah. We'll see. I think so. But I mean, there's a big reason that I did that before the start of the season, and because I know the position I'm going to be in now, so I'm going to do my best. But my main job is coaching the team.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks a lot.
And Jim Wilk coached that team from the sidelines. According to that 3-game suspension, Harbaugh described it as going to a place he had never been, seeing the game in a different way, through a different lens, believes it's made him a better coach. Interestingly, he did address what led to the suspension, saying he has implemented new policies to, quote, make sure he never gets sidelined again. Purdue opened the Ryan Walters era with a thrilling 39-35 loss at home against Fresno State, then went on the road, got Walters his first win after waiting out a 5.5-hour weather delay. But that defense not up to snuff once again at home against Syracuse, and so the Boilers are 1-2 as they get set to start Big Ten play this Friday against Wisconsin. For a look back on the non-con and a look ahead to what awaits on the Big Ten schedule, we head to West Lafayette. Here is Purdue head coach Ryan Walters.
Just after watching the tape, did you notice any theme with those turnovers at the inopportune moments?
Yeah, just definitely ball security issues. We teach it covering up the ball a certain way when you're in traffic. And that really led to putting the ball on the ground 7 times. We were fortunate to only lose 3 of them. But you can't win a ball game against a quality opponent, turn the ball over 4 times, especially in the red area like we did.
How are you guys going to work on the ball security this week in practice? Any emphasis on that?
Yeah, that's the thing. We emphasize it every week. We have a designated day where we actually work ball security drills and turnover circuits on defense, which is why we've been really clean up until the other night. So definitely we'll put an emphasis on it, and guys just got to take ownership over protecting the football and carrying it the right way.
And then with the last 3 games, looking at tape, have you noticed any pattern with going for it on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 and not being able to convert?
Yeah, that's the pattern is not being able to convert. So after now we got 3 games of logged information. That definitely will change my approach on when to and when not to go for it. We're constantly evaluating what type of plays we're running in those 3rd and shorts, 4th and shorts, and so we'll have a better plan moving forward.
And then my last question is, you said after the game on Saturday you had to do some self-evaluation to not make those mistakes ahead of Big Ten play. What's that self-evaluation going to look like? What did you just learn from these last 3 games?
Yeah, it's a combination of a couple things. One, structurally, offensively, defensively, and special teams, I think we're doing the right things. I do think in some of the situational ball, are we asking our guys to do something that might not fit their strong suits? For example, this past weekend, obviously the quarterback was a good runner, and we had some design things where we had somebody responsible for him, but is it the right guy responsible for him? Just things like that, as you consistently learn your roster, learn what they're comfortable with and what their strong suits are. But we'll be, I'm not panicked, just like I wasn't panicked after week 1. That's a good opponent. Obviously, they beat us last year. And then the team we lost to the first week, they're a good football team, and we bounced back against Virginia Tech in some adverse situations. So, no need to push the panic button right now, but definitely need to continue to grow and continue to improve, which I think this team will do as the year goes on.
Ryan, through 3 games, can you sort of just evaluate Hudson Card?
Obviously, he'd like to have the turnovers back, right? I thought this was the most comfortable he looked. Just we moved the ball up and down the field all night, really. Just had the 4 turnovers, and obviously those turnovers came in costly areas of the field and costly moments. But I feel like he's been poised under pressure. He doesn't really get rattled. He's got great arm talent and is athletic enough to get you out of some situations and make plays. I think he is becoming comfortable with his receiving core, and they're comfortable with him. So I think that we would all be feeling a lot different right now if just we didn't have the turnovers that we had when we had them. And he'll continue to improve as well. This is his first year in the system, and I'm happy he's our quarterback.
I know defenses want to take away Deion Burks, but do you think he needs to even be more involved in this offense?
Obviously, I think there's a couple guys we'd like to get more touches. I think Deion is one. I think Tyrone Tracy is another. And so, again, those are things that we are constantly evaluating and trying to come up with creative ways to do so.
Yeah, the depth chart's got an or between Mockabee and Tracy, so I guess the job's open.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are, in my opinion, those guys are both starting type players in this conference and for us as a team. And so, I think those reps will be more evenly distributed, and hopefully we'll be better because of that on offense.
Any update on Kadron Jenkins, who missed the second half Saturday night?
Yeah, he's just still going through the rehab process. If he is ready to go, he'll go. If he's not, he won't, and it'll be next man up. But obviously he's a great player, and definitely hurt not having him in that second half.
11 penalties Saturday night. I guess, what do you do to clean that up?
Yeah, just you teach off of them. Some of them are bang bang plays. Some of them could go either way. So don't want to overreact. But the post snap penalties I think will kill you. Pre snap penalties will kill you. But the ones that are in competition when you're competing for a ball, or like a holding call on the offensive line that could or could not be thrown, you don't want to overreact to those. But you can't have, I think we have 9 penalties on Saturday. Can't have those. We talk about all the time. In order to win a game, you gotta not lose it, and you lose games by penalties, mental errors, and turnovers. And we were not great in those three categories.
How do you feel about playing on Friday nights?
It's tough after a Saturday night, especially. Just a quick turnaround. So today is like a Tuesday for us, but you definitely don't want to go out there and practice like a Tuesday practice. We just came off of a night game that had a lot of snaps on offense and defense, and I got guys that are banged up from Saturday night, and so we'll go more of a walkthrough tempo today and hit like a normal practice tomorrow. And then get into more mental prep as we approach Friday night. Obviously, I think the atmosphere will be great. It always is in Ross-Ade. I mean, just the energy, the electricity, and the fan support and the community support in West Lafayette has been tremendous. Just hopefully they'll be patient with us. Like we'll put a product out there that'll be exciting to cheer for. And I know our guys really appreciate the atmosphere that they create. And that's why we do it. That's why one of the reasons why I was excited about coming here is just because of the environment that Ross-Ade provides.
Is this a game where you need to have a short memory?
Yeah. I mean, you got to have short memory on all of them. But in particular, this one just because of the schedule that lies ahead. You had a quick turnaround and playing against a team that this university hasn't beaten in 20 years. And so there's a lot of things to look forward to. And just another opportunity to go compete, and that's what I love about this team is that they are not shy about the competition and are eager to go prove themselves, as is the staff, and so we're looking forward to a great night on Friday.
Now, you've played Wisconsin before, obviously, but they have a new OC. What are the biggest differences that you've seen on tape from this year's Wisconsin team to the one that you've played in the past?
Just schematically way different. Wisconsin, as you think of them, the last however many years has been super run heavy and, use of multiple tight ends and controlling the clock and playing with, a measured pace. And, Phil Longo is not that. He's spread you out. He's a lot more similar style to the way we play offensively. And so they throw the ball all over the place, and we'll try to get some balance because they do have two really talented running backs. But you can tell they definitely want to air it out more than they ever have in the history of their program.
Right, you kind of touched on this, but 16 straight losses. I mean, how do you wrap your head around that? Because in the Big Ten, nobody beats anybody 16 times in a row. Yeah, I mean, other than Wisconsin, right? So. You just got to take each season and each game is its own lifespan, and so you can't dwell on that fact, but at the same time you want to recognize it, to use it as added motivation, and if we want to get to where we want to go as a program, then that's the school that we're going to have to beat year in and year out, and so in order to do so, you got to prepare the right way, and you can't go into a game hesitant or shy about who you're playing against just because of the logo on their helmet. You got to go compete like you're competing every week, and the goal is to win a game. Now that you watched film, how do you evaluate what Scotty Humpich did, what Will Helt did with KJ out last Saturday? Yeah, those guys they played well in spurts, and then in other times I know they'd like to have some plays back. And again, that's in two part. One. Them playing within the framework of the defense and staying true to their assignment, and also, from a schematic standpoint, are asking them to do things that they are capable of doing and doing well. And so, they are both highly capable, experienced guys. Obviously, Will's a freshman, but he's played well when he's had his opportunity. He's going to be a great player here, and is going to have a great career here. So. We're excited about both of those guys and happy that they're a part of our team and can play winning football for us. I think we asked you in the spring if you were going to go looking in the portal for a kicker, and you said we have a kicker. Ben's had some struggles. How do you keep him confident with missing a big extra point, missing a couple of field goals that should be gimmies? Well, you got to go and look back at his preparation and what he's shown and done in practice, so that when you get out in those live moments with added pressure and added eyes, you just resort back to your training. And so I think that's what
he's focused on, and you know what we're preaching to him, and he'll be fine moving forward.
So what Wisconsin's doing philosophically, offensively now, what you're doing at Purdue on both sides of the ball, taking players recruited to one very specific system and then shifting to something very different. What are the real challenges as a coach, and how malleable do you have to be to, I guess, your personnel?
You know, I can't speak on Wisconsin because I'm not in their locker room. You know what I mean, and I don't know what they're thinking and what their communication has been. But for us, it's you just finding, like I said, finding the right pieces to fit what we're trying to get done on offense and defense. And at times it has looked really good. You know, there are, I would say, you know, 85% of the snaps were exactly how you draw them up and look clean and look fast. But, you know, like I say, you turn the ball over 4 times. You don't convert on some of the third and shorts. You get 9 penalties against a team like Syracuse or a team like Fresno State. You know, that they will expose you and take advantage of those mistakes. And so, you know, if we can continue to play with being competitive, being tough, and at the end of the day being really disciplined, then I think we're exactly where we need to be, and we'll be very competitive in this Big Ten race.
With Luke Fickell, have you crossed paths with him, or how have you crossed paths with him over the years in your playing and/or coaching career?
The only time I've crossed paths with him was at the Big Ten head coaches meetings. You know, he's definitely a great guy. Just getting to know him from that aspect, and I got tremendous respect for what he's done in his coaching career, and how he was able to, you know, elevate the different stops that he's been. And so we'll definitely have challenges. His teams are well coached, and they play with an edge and are disciplined and physical, and they compete at a high level.
Ryan Walter's a pretty calm guy by nature, so no surprise to hear him say this: no need to push the panic button right now at 1-2, but need to continue to grow and continue to improve. Offense has been pretty good. Interestingly enough, it's the defense for a guy who was a defensive coordinator before taking this head job that clearly needs the biggest improvement. As for Indiana, the other school in the state of Indiana that we worry about here on the Big Ten Network, well, the Hoosiers had a really tough schedule, just like Purdue. You open up against Ohio State, and then you have to deal with Louisville, familiar face, new place. That's Jeff Brom's team, one of the highest scoring teams in the country. Defense did a nice job for Tom Allen and the Hoosiers, but Indiana did give up the first 21 before rallying back to make this a 1-touchdown game, but couldn't come any closer. Like their friends from West Lafayette, the Hoosiers are also at 1-2 heading into this Saturday's play. Ahead of that game, we head to Bloomington. Here is Tom Allen.
Good morning. Just follow up from Saturday. Obviously, disappointing finish for our guys. Proud of the response in the second half. Obviously, did not start the way we needed to start in the first half. But really proud of our guys' ability to regroup, make adjustments, and come out and play the way we expected us to play from the beginning. So saw some progress with our young quarterback. Obviously continue to build off of his strengths and what he's able to do, and continue to grow and develop him and grow and develop our offense around him. And excited to see our defense respond and get a strong performance in the second half. Still not enough takeaways. Got a goal of 3 every game. Only got 1, needed another one, and 3 would be ideal to get what we need to get to be able to set up our offense in a better way. But special teams eliminated the penalties, executed the onside kick there to perfection, which helped us get jump-started in the second half. But just continue more consistency out of our punting unit that has been really strong and was good, but still not elite, which needs to be elite every time we take the field. So recognizing our scout team players of the week, Aiden Cannon and Drew Pierce were our defensive scouts of the week. And offensively, Brody Foley and Sam West were selected by the staff, and then special teams was Aaron Stewart. So continue to get strong efforts from our guys in practice, which is necessary to get ourselves prepared each week. Go back, evaluate, adjust, and get better. And so we've got an important game coming up here at home against Akron to be able to continue to develop our team, build our team, and get better in all three units. So important week for us to be able to lock in and welcome a team that's got a lot of good athletes on it, a lot of guys that good enough to make it really challenging for us. So they play really, really hard. Coach Moorhead does a great job there, and Joe's a great football coach, and gone against him many times when he was at Penn State, and they'll be very good schematically on both sides of the ball. So looking for the opportunity for us to continue to improve and continue to get better. Questions?
As you were able to go back, watch film, evaluate, kind of a two-parter, just number one, when you have a second look at it, how important maybe, or how impressed were you with just kind of the rhythm that Walt and Taven got into, play caller, quarterback, and while not asking for bulletin board material on Akron, how important is a weekend like this before you get back into Big Ten play to keep building on that and maybe to experiment a little bit more, put some different things on Taven's plate to keep growing that relationship?
Yeah, I think that it was an important next step. We obviously that was the first game that he's been, where Taven was the guy the whole game, and so just to be able to, as you said, grow that chemistry, and be able to get in a good flow. And that's the thing too. You think about the first half, we just didn't finish our drives. We had two good starts to the drives, but did not finish them, and had enough individualized mistakes of individual players that kind of collectively short-circuited those. But I think you can just kind of see, what we can become, from a scheme perspective, as well as, the play calling itself and being able to distribute the football. And I think, Taven's ability to make reads in the throw game was impressive. He's obviously, they're loading the box and they're trying to stop the run and, make the young quarterback, make plays. And he was able to do that. He created several out of nothing. I always talk about that's kind of like a key quality looking for in a quarterback is, hey, can he make something out of nothing? When something breaks down, can he extend the play long enough to be able to get his eyes downfield, which he's able to do that, and either beat you with his legs or beat you with his arm. And so I think just recognition of that part of his game was good. This guy keep growing that, and there's no question that he just needs to play football. The more he plays, the better he's going to get. I believe that. And even just the mechanics of everything, and just working through, running the huddle and taking care of the shot clock, and we're trying to maximize that through everything that we do. And so obviously a couple of times that we had to burn some timeouts that you don't want to do in those situations. And so we got to do a better job with that, both as a staff and the execution as players. So, but I think you just see that growth. And obviously we got one more game before we get back into Big Ten play, but they're all important. It's a team that it was 14-3 late in the third quarter at Kentucky. A team that's got a lot of athletes, a lot of length. Kids play extremely hard. So yeah, you got to be on point without question, and that's what it's supposed to be every time you take the field. And a lot of respect for the way this team is coached and how hard they're going to play. And that's really kind of something that sticks out to me on film is how hard they play. And so that's a tribute to their coaching staff and their players. So we will have to be offensively at our best, but we got to continue to move forward. And that's the whole point. It's an obsession with getting better. That's what our focus is this week, just to be able to improve as a football team and continue to progress on both sides of the ball and special teams.
Coach, the onside kick was really the first kind of big pressure spot that you've had to put Chris in this season. Just how, it's a big call to make, obviously, and really, in the heat of the game like that, really trying to give your team a jolt. How did you see him handle that moment? And just, obviously, he had a lot of time to think about it as you made that decision in halftime leading up to that. How did you see him handle that moment?
Yeah, I think that was a really huge step for him. It's one thing to do in practice. Those are hard to get. You have to, the placement has to be perfect. The spacing is pretty compressed, and there's a little window that we took advantage of. But if the ball doesn't hit just right, sometimes you overthink it and you don't hit it quite hard enough or whatever. And so, matter of fact, of the three that we've did, like I said, we were 2 for 2 during practice, and that might have been the best one of the 3. The way it just popped up perfect right there for Lewis to recover. But so just to be able to do that in that moment, yeah, that gives him confidence. There's nothing like doing it in the game, and practice is great. Obviously, that's where it all begins. But executing that moment, in that setting at a critical time was very important. So he's a guy that he's growing in his confidence each time he takes the field. Obviously, he's been our kickoff specialist a year ago, and now he's grown into being our field goal guy, as well as now just being able to have the ability to, that's one thing I always felt like about Chris because of his soccer background, was his ability to have a multiple skill set of different kinds of kicks that he can bring to our arsenal. And because of his, ability to, being such a talented soccer player and understanding ball placement and different things like that. Some guys with big legs like he had, they can just crush the ball, and that's pretty much what you're going to get. But he's got ability to place the ball, and felt that way coming out of high school too. So great to see him do that, and just proud of him because he's worked really, really hard. And he's earned a scholarship here, and that's we put him on here a year ago, and just really, really proud of him for coming here and earning it the way that he has. And he's an excellent student. Awesome young man, and just a great representation of our program in every way.
Yeah, when you rewatched the Louisville's last drive when they were able to run out the clock, what happened? Kind of, what did you take away from that? Anything that concerned you the most when they ran it 8 times and their quarterback got loose? What did you kind of take away from that?
Yeah,
sequence?
so 2 things. Number one, didn't contain the quarterback. That to me jumps out the most. The first play when they had the ball that didn't, gave them a chance to get off the hook, and get out of the inside the 5 area, obviously even tighter than that initially. But and then the third down one, that's what just sticks out to me. The 3rd and 9, we had a great call on. I like the call that we made, and we just got to, we got to be disciplined. And to me, I think it was kind of the theme. Did some good things defensively, held a very explosive offense to 21 points, but obviously too many points. We didn't win. But we had breakdowns. Just some individual breakdowns where a guy that's supposed to be the edge, we brought pressure from one side, and obviously then you got to understand that to know that he's going to get flushed out away from the pressure most of the time, or he's going to step up. And so just to not have that executed properly was kind of telling for some other things that happened even earlier in the game, especially in the first half when we weren't getting off the field on 3rd downs. It just takes one person to not be able to do your job. So there was so much emphasis about this phrase, do your job. And I felt like that kind of broke down, and that was those last few plays that were kind of a microcosm of the whole game, especially the first half for our defense. And because to me, we had a chance there. I think it was 2 minutes and 12 seconds to go in the game when we had 3rd and 9. And you get that stop there, either incomplete pass. If you get a sack, you call the timeout, get the ball back with 2 minutes to go, and you go try and win the game. So just really disappointed our defense didn't give us a chance there at that very, very end to have another shot. So just got to stop the run. We didn't stop the run effectively enough. And several of those were quarterback scrambles, which has got to be eliminated. And so just got to get tighter on our run fits and do some things better. And it's really about execution for me. And so that, to me, I think those last few plays there kind of summarize that. So we got to continue to work. We're not where we need to be yet, but we got to continue to get better.
Tom, can you talk a little bit about the way Sharp and Dunham bounced back, the way they handled that kind of speed?
Yeah, so that was you got 2 young players that had bad eyes. And so you think about Jamari, very talented player, but that was really his first, a game, I would say, of that magnitude where you got 2 teams that are very, very, equal, and we're trying to have every play is going to be a variable in the outcome of the game. And so I think it's important to be able to have those experiences. Yeah, you don't want him to have a negative like that and give up such a huge play, but he's going to learn a valuable lesson from that. He was our, in that coverage, he was the high defender, so he should not be triggered on the run, and he did, and so he bit on the run fake, and because of poor eyes, and same with Phillip, getting his eyes off his man in that particular call and giving up a double move, and so, but once again, Phillip's he's played more football for us than Jamari has, but still he's young, and so those are critical opportunities to learn from. And so I think to be able to come back from that is important. You got to flush it, you got to press on. You got to have a really bad memory and play in the secondary at this level. They're going to make some plays, but we knew we couldn't give up explosive pass plays, and so obviously both of those were the one we ended up getting a stop and a missed field goal, but obviously the other one was a touchdown. So an 85-yard touchdown, which is just it's a killer. You can't do that. You got to make them earn that, and we did not. So, but going to learn from that. Obviously, much to teach off of. That's once again goes back to, hey, 10 guys can do your job, and if one guy doesn't, then it's a negative play for us. So we got to do our job. We got to trust the guys around us to do theirs. You got to trust the fitters on the run to do theirs, so you can stay back and play things top down per the coverage. So that's a growth opportunity for some young guys, and I expect them to be better because of it.
Hey, Coach, you talked about after the game the adjustments you guys made on offense. One thing that I kind of noticed, it seemed like you were doing a lot of 2 tight end stuff in the first half. And then second half seemed like you spread them out a little bit more on offensively, a little bit more 4 or 5 wide receivers. I'm not trying to give away trade secrets, but going forward, do you think that's something that Haven's more comfortable with than what you guys maybe were doing a little bit earlier, just so, spread the ball out, let him kind of read the field and make plays?
Well, I think there's, a lot of it has to do with how they're defending us each week. So that will be an adjustment, whether it's as it starts the game or something that we go to, just having that flexibility to be able to do both is important. And I think that's a critical piece to what we want to be able to do. So, yeah, there's no question, based on how the opponent decides to defend us, and they'll all have their own ways of doing that each week. And based on that, we want to do a great job of either having the initial plan that takes advantage of it, or if it's different than we might have expected, then you make an adjustment and do what we think is best. But there's no question that I think you can see that Taven is comfortable in either setting, but obviously has the ability to get, clear. Whatever we can do to simplify the reads is really is the key. And based, like you said, based on how they're defending us, that we'll be able to adjust accordingly.
Tom, with regards to the timeout management, there was a drive in the first half where you guys used 2 timeouts within 2 plays. And then also in the second half, you guys only had 1 timeout left for that final Louisville drive. Looking back through the film, is there something maybe that sticks out to you as like why you guys were in that kind of situation? Yeah, so in the first half, I would say, it was once it would have been on our staff to be able to get the call in sooner, and that would be an issue that we have to get corrected. And then the second one was ability for us to, quarterback's got to be able to manage that as well. And so, but once again, being young, that will improve each and every week. But yeah, you don't want to burn those. Obviously, you like to have 2 going into the final situation. I know for us in the final drive, we obviously took that last one there, or the second to last one prior to the 4th down. So it's kind of a good time to be able just to make sure you talk things through. But at the same time, you'd like to have 2 going into a final drive, if at all possible, and for sure 1. So, but yeah, you got to, second half for sure, you want to save those timeouts and got to do a better job as both the staff and both their execution offensively.
Yeah, Tom, you said before the season just how important it was for whoever you named at quarterback, just their leadership, and how that was kind of a challenge just since, they were young guys, hadn't played much football. How would you kind of evaluate how Taven has grown in those ways, and maybe some of the ways that players have around him have responded to that? Yeah, I think in one thing that is hard, one of the negatives of having a quarterback competition in the offseason is, who do they look to, and so you're really looking to both of them, and it's always kind of a little bit of a balancing act of, who kind of takes over, and, even, hey, let's get together and let's throw, who initiates that, so, but they've done a great job of managing that and working together for that. And so, but now when you make a decision, it becomes the focus on, okay, this is your role now, So, and I think Taven very naturally does that. I think, he knew, and he and I even talked when he first got here, when you come in brand new to a place, you got to kind of, earn the right to speak per se. And so, but he did a great job of building that trust with his teammates. And so now he's been positioned where he needs to take over, and that's what he does, a lot of that. He's a verbal guy. So he's, I would say, since I've been here,
he has the potential to be the best verbal leader we've had at that position in all my years here, and I expect him to be that way. And I think it comes to him in a very natural way, and so that's a good thing. I want that guy to be verbal. To me, you have to have a guy that's going to speak with confidence and clarity and articulate the vision of what we want to be able to do, and to be able to motivate and to confront and to encourage and to challenge in that role. And we really haven't had that, to the extent that I think you need it. And I say the same thing for our linebackers. Everybody's got different personalities, and I get that. But at the same time, you have to speak to lead, and you have to speak to be able to I think, to have the highest level of strong leadership at that position. So I think that's something that he will do very, very well. And it's something I will work with him on individually. And when I see things, to both encourage and to challenge. And so, but like I said, once again, certain guys have that. And I think that's something that's going to be one of his strengths without question. So I think that will continue to grow throughout the season. And I think you can see that the guys, they believe in him and his ability to make plays in those situations. And that will continue to grow.
Taven Jackson obviously, impressing Allen, not just with his play on the field, but his leadership in the locker room. According to Allen, quote, he has the potential to be the best verbal leader since I've been here. And Allen went on to say, Hoosiers haven't really had that to the extent that they've needed it since he took over the program a few years back. Rutgers has done exactly what it knew it had to do at the start of the year. You win the Big Ten opener against Northwestern. You come back, you beat Temple. You beat Virginia Tech, and you are 3-0 headed into Week 4, a week that there's no doubt the Scarlet Knights have had circled on the schedule for a little while because the last few years has not been pretty against Michigan. Is this the team that is able to go to Ann Arbor, shock the world, and make us think differently about Rutgers and their championship hopes? We will find out on Saturday inside the Big House. It's a game you can see at noon Eastern right here on Big Ten Network. But for now, let's head to the banks. Here is Rutgers head man Greg Schiano.
Hey, fellas, thanks for coming out. Excited about the opportunity. Want to first congratulate Kyle Monangai for being named Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week. He certainly deserves it. He's had so far a great start to the season and really represents, I think, what our football team's about. Works extremely hard, lives in the moment, chops the moment, and it's paying off for him. So excited for him and for our team. Great challenge, number 2 team in the country. Probably could be easily ranked number 1. They're that good. And there's absolutely no weaknesses in this team. When you look at what they have, their offensive line, 2-time reigning Joe Moore Offensive Line of the Year. They have an experienced quarterback who can both run and throw accurately at deep, do all the things. He's a future first-rounder at quarterback. They have 2 running backs that are as good as anybody's in the country. A slew of receivers, tight ends. Flip it over to defense. Their defensive line is maybe the best in the country. Big, physical, deep. Linebackers run and hit. Secondary covers well. Kicking game, they have specialists that are arguably the best in the nation. So definitely a tall order, but we need to make sure we take care of us. That's what we need to do, and that's what we'll do in preparation. And then great opportunity to go out to Ann Arbor and go play. So looking forward to it.
Greg, just going back to Kyle Monangai, what have you seen from him, the way he's kind of developed in the time that you've had him, and what he's done to become a formidable Big Ten back?
Yeah, he's worked incredibly hard, both his physical development in the strength and conditioning area, become a student of the game. Oftentimes running backs can get away just by being naturally talented guys, and he is naturally talented, but he's worked very hard to understand run schemes, understand pass protections, and most importantly, understand defenses. So I think he's now what I would call a guy who's in that final quarter of his development here, and those are the guys that we need.
You mentioned Kyle being Player of the Week. It seems like there's some more eyeballs on your program after starting 3-0. Can you feel any extra excitement from your players, from the fans going into this huge game?
I know our players are excited about playing it. It's definitely a great test for us. I think we're so kind of isolated in this building and what we do. And, I don't look at stuff So I wouldn't know that. I don't see very many people other than our staff, our players, and my wife. So I can't tell you that. I'm probably the worst one in the world to ask about that. But I'm excited to have a great opportunity.
You guys played Michigan pretty tough the last 5 of the last 6 halves, two games in a row, 21 and 20 in the first half last year. Why do you think that is? What has allowed you guys to have success, and what do you think is missing to get?
Yeah, I don't know. If I knew what was missing, I would have employed it and done it and hopefully won the game. But, yeah, I think, one thing about our guys, they work so hard and they're so focused that given the opportunity, they're going to be ready to go. Will it be good enough? I don't know. But we're going to go give it everything we got.
Coach, first road trip of the year, going to the big house, over 100,000 fans, very intimidating environment to play in. How do you, as a coach, sort of prepare your players the best that you can to face that kind of an environment?
Well, I love going on the road. I mean, especially the first time when you take your, 74 guys you're allowed to bring and your staff, and it's just you, and you go on the road, and nothing like it. When you come out of that tunnel and everybody's against you and it's just your guys, that's a special feeling, one that I think every athlete that's done it appreciates it and enjoys it. So again, great opportunity. Coached there many times, excited about the chance.
Coach, to go off of that question, is there anything prep-wise that the team does? Obviously 3 home games, but now going on a road game. Is there anything different that the team does during practice and before the game?
Yeah, we flip the speakers. So when we're home, the speakers are on pointed towards the defensive field, because as you know, it's deafening out there on defense on third down. You can't hear yourself think. Everything has to be hand signals and nonverbal communication. Well, now you flip the speakers and you put them on the offensive field, because when you're on the road, the noise is going to hit you on offense. So there's some certain things you need to do, nonverbal communication, silent counts, those kind of things that we'll put into play. But we've worked on those in training camp and ready to do that.
Greg, I wanted to ask you about 2 offensive linemen in particular. Taj White, redshirt freshman, stepped up and played significant snaps at right tackle in place of Needham, who was missing. And then Brian Felter's played a lot of snaps this year and didn't play much last year, but is playing a lot more this season.
Yeah, I think those are all good guys, and the guy I would add would be Kamar Missouri. Between Kamar Missouri and Taj White, they did a really good job of ham and egging it and filling in for Ty Needham. I don't think you could say that we really noticed that was a huge drop-off. And sometimes, as I've told you guys before, it's not always a one-for-one fill-in. So I thought they did a great job together. They kind of split the reps almost down the middle. So I thought it was very good. Brian Felter has improved, and I think he does a nice job of mixing in there with Curtis Dunlap. And, again, I'm not opposed to that. Coach Flaherty is right along lines with me, and so is Coach Shiraka, that if that's what gives us the best chance to win, if 5 guys gave us the best chance to win, then we'd only play 5. But right now we feel this is the best mix and gives us the best chance to win. So, yeah, encouraged by all those guys, and hopefully they continue to get better and better.
After the Northwestern game, you said something to the effect of there were some plays you guys didn't run on offense that could be useful down the road. I'm curious, did you use any of those plays in the last 2 games against Temple and Virginia Tech? And if not, is this game against Michigan, top 5 team, is that the kind of game where you can open up the playbook, so to speak?
Well, I don't know if it's open it up or not. I mean, there's certain plays that you continue to invest in. If you don't run them, then you continue to invest in them again, and you build cumulative reps. There's certain plays that you're going to run every week, and everybody knows it, and those are the plays that you hang your hat on. But then there's other plays that you practice that are more situational, and if you don't use them, that's great, because then you build more reps. You put more equity into them. So, there's some things that are out there, but we are what we are. Like I said, we're going out there. We're going to do what we do. You always make game plan tweaks to fit who you're playing, but that's the way we roll.
When you were recruiting Flip Dixon from the portal, what stood out about him that made you know that he was the right fit for this program and was going to be a guy who could really help elevate the defense?
Well, Joe knew him, obviously, from the time at Minnesota. So when we found out that he was in the portal, that was an immediate guy that we wanted to go recruit hard. And Joe recruited him out of high school, actually. So, he knew him better than anybody. And I say Joe, Coach Harasimiak. So he was 100% sure and we put every bit of effort we could into him. And he's such a great, not only a real fine player, but a great person, great guy to have on the team.
Way back in your first stint, there was a lot of excitement and great times leading up to huge games against Louisville. Comes to mind, obviously. How did you know your team was ready for a moment like that? And does it feel like that at all right now?
Well, you don't really ever know. Coaches say, well, I knew we were, Coach Bryant, who was one of the best to ever coach the game, said well into his career, I can't tell you if my teams are ready. We'll see. And, if he couldn't and Coach Paterno and those guys couldn't, there's no reason I can. It's human element. You never know. And you just go out and play it. But what you do know is how much you invested in the preparation and how much you invest all the way right through the game, not to it, but through it. Every meeting on the sideline, in between series, everything at halftime. All that stuff is critical to winning and losing. Exciting, you put yourself in position to play these games. Then you got to go play them, right? So you do invest a whole lot before, but then there's that 3.5, 4 hours where you got to go get it done. And that's, are we ready to do that? I can't tell you that. I hope we are. But if we're not, then we will be. We just got to keep working at it. But I like this team. I like their mindset. I like the leadership. Let's go play it.
You got to love Greg Schiano. Basically tells you like it is. When it comes to Michigan, he says, yes, they're the number 2 team in the country, but they could easily be ranked number 1. They're that good, and Schiano believes there is no weakness on that Wolverine team. Unbeaten versus unbeaten this week in Ann Arbor. Illinois certainly not unbeaten, struggling in the early going under Brett Bielema. We'll touch on some of those issues as we hear from Coach B coming up next.
Rated M for mature.
The chaos is coming, Guardian. I dare you to defy
Much to care for in your life. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Show the world what it means to be a Big Ten fan at Fanatics.com. The largest assortment of officially licensed Big Ten fan gear anywhere. Shop now and get today's special offer. Fanatics.com. Officially licensed everything.
If it happens in the Big Ten, we're talking about it on Big Ten Today. Weekdays at noon Eastern on the Big Ten Network. We are leaders who dream big, working together to improve lives off the field. With nearly 2,500 cancer researchers shaping the next generation of care, awarding more than 9,000 doctorate degrees annually, preparing the next generation of teachers, inventors, and researchers, while launching nearly 150 new startups every year to fuel the economy. We are the Big Ten, and together, we are unstoppable.
These celebrities are about to find out. Let's go! The cold will kill you in minutes.
People want to underestimate me. I'm a lot stronger than people think.
Very few of you will remain to the end of this course.
I can't do it. I can't do it. Ah!
I want to get punished. This is hell on earth.
Special Forces World's Toughest Test. Season premiere Monday, September 25th on Fox.
There were many who believed that in a wide-open West, Illinois could be the team to emerge this year. That may eventually be the case, but right now the Illini are stuck in a 2-game losing jag, non-con on the road to Kansas, and back in league play at home this past weekend against Penn State. Illinois giving up 28, 34, and 30 points respectively in their 3 losses so far this season. Much more on what has to get better before this weekend's matchup against Florida Atlantic as we head to Champaign and check in with Brett Bielema.
Yeah, so unfortunately we do have 3 guys this week
getting surgery, so our thoughts are with them. Jordan Anderson, he was actually scheduled a couple of weeks ago, but had an illness, delayed that, so he'll have surgery. And then also Demetrius Hill tore his ACL last week, so he'll have surgery this week. And unfortunately, after test on Sunday morning, Matt Bailey dislocated his shoulder, but also had some structural damage in there as well. So he'll have surgery this week and be out for the season. So unfortunate for those guys, but I did think that, on Saturday, several different occasions, there was Isaiah Adams got knocked out of the game for a minute. Hunter Whiteneck went in there and did a nice job, did some things. And then a couple of the guys at other positions. We got a lot of wide receivers in the game that we hadn't been able to get in at that point. Our two young running backs, a couple defensive players. You saw Ashton Hollins make a big play, obviously Malik Elzy. So some positives that came out of a negative situation was some guys got some reps and continued to be pretty impressive what we saw during practice. So excited for that. I think offensively, obviously the big question will be at quarterback, how Luke responds and comes back is going to be awesome. I think the part that I called him on Saturday night, let him know where I was at and how he was feeling. I think Sunday was a tough day for everybody, right? But to get a chance to turn our preparation into another quality non-conference opponent, I think is going to get everybody's attention and focus on that. So I like the demeanor we were in Sunday. Obviously today's a day off, but we'll know a lot about tomorrow on Tuesday's practice. FAU, obviously, the situation that happened at Clemson, game got away, got an early pick. Obviously their quarterback got injured. That got confirmed today, right? So now they're playing with their starting quarterback, which we assume will be for us this week. But just the week before, right, they lost a tough game to Ohio. And Ohio, you saw what they did this week against Iowa State. So this is a very good football team, one that's got a lot of speed on the field, very well coached. Obviously, the coaches are in the beginning phases of their career there, so those guys are getting their feet wet. But they obviously were at Clemson last week, so they're not going to be intimidated or anything along the lines of walking into our stadium. So excited for the work week in front of us and see where we can go. With that, open up for questions.
Brett, the same thing I asked Aaron. You know how hard Matt Bailey worked this winter and summer to get on the field. And in the first play of the game, he just laying on the ground just as a human being. He just had to go.
Well, yeah, twofold. That one play he had was really good. They ran a quick toss in the boundary, and he came up and sported, and I brought him in yesterday after it was confirmed. He and I had a moment. He'd been through a lot just to get to that point, right, just the setbacks he had. And over there near the boundary, he kind of just put his left hand out, and then everything kind of piled on top of him. And he did get enough strength to go back in, but what the x-rays found out and some things, there was some things that he could – sometimes guys will have these type of moments and can play with it, but his injury was one that he won't be able to do that. So that's why we – obviously, waste no time, no decision to get the surgery done as fast as he can. He'll look at probably about a 6-month rehab for that. But yeah, literally, he's in my meeting. We're talking about the injury and the rehab, and had a lot of guys have this surgery that it's an invasive surgery, so it's going to be painful. And I literally get done talking about that, and he's like, "Okay, when I come out to practice, where should I stand to get the maximum amount of learning?" He literally flipped a switch like that about what he could do to become better over the next 6 months while he isn't able to play the game. So I'll give him some NFL projects, obviously watch some safeties that play similar schemes in our system and give him some things because he does have a little, I'm not a doctor, but he does have a little OCD. He's going to be driving himself nuts with not enough things to do. Classic example, right? So Saturday I get done with the media, come up to my office, we have some recruits, and then I'm coming back down the stairs to get to our car with my wife and my daughter, and I see Matt Bailey walk out, and he's got like a group of 15 people. I didn't know if they're all with him or who it was, but it was an entire church group from Moline had come to watch him. It's good stuff, but tough.
Coach, I know all games count the same, but is this one of those ones that is a must-win game for you to get where you want to go this season? I
get the question, but I think from the outside world, that's probably one that you probably figured out from our room that would just – this is the fourth game on our schedule. We talked about how the season lays out, right? We knew that we had obviously the opener, and then to go on the road to Kansas, come back and play a Penn State Big Ten game in Game 3 is unique, and then they have a non-conference opponent right behind it. But this is week 4 of 12. It's the last game that we have before we enter into 8 games straight of Big Ten play. So I think that's the only thing our guys will see it as, but they'll respect all, fear none, and get excited to play play them in the scheme. And again, I don't have to go any further back than to see the way they played, especially in the second half against Clemson, and then also the Ohio U game in particular.
You guys as coaches to help Luke quickly rebound, turn the page.
Yes, but I think Luke has to process it, right? Like one of the things that we say all the time in our building, right? Adversity is going to strike, and you learn more from yourself during moments of adversity than you do in moments of success. And I think after that first game, everybody's like, whoa, right? And then even though we didn't do the things that we want to do at Kansas, he had that long run, so everybody's thinking all this, right? So for a starting quarterback, I literally Googled on my own Saturday night college and NFL quarterbacks that have thrown 4-game interceptions and 4-in-a-game interceptions, and the list is incredibly long, right? So, it happens. It's happened in the past, and my guess it's probably going to happen in the future. I just hope it doesn't happen to him again. And I think the parts that you have to take into account, like there were definitely reasons to those throws, right, and what they had and what occurred. I obviously vented a little bit after the game. There's a number of plays I've turned in, very frustrating. Literally the first play on defense had a little bit of a situation 50 yards away from the ball. On that touchdown drive when we got going, they had a player to literally dive and hit him right at the kneecaps, which, from where I sit, I wanted to have that called, and that kind of gets in your mind a little bit, right? And we were obviously having some pressure in his face. I think we got to clean that up. So I think not everybody was just saying it's Luke. I think a lot of guys were doing, what can I do to help Luke?
We've heard you talk a lot about complementary football.
Yeah.
Haven't seen that as much this year. What's important? How important is that to get back to?
Yeah, we need to see more of it. But there is a segment that I specifically showed to the guys. Last thing we showed. So when I get them at first on Sundays, it's usually pretty good corrective. Have big ears, big eyes, and learn. And then on the back end of it, before we jump into FAU, I showed them at the 6-minute mark, roughly the 6-minute mark. Our defense had a drive that had gotten in the red area. We made a stand and we blocked a field goal, right? The next series, our offense took the field and scored a touchdown, and made it obviously at that time was a 13-7 game. Our defense took the field and shut them out on a 3-and-out, and then they punted the ball to us, and we had a 2-minute end-of-half situation that we didn't capitalize on. And obviously they had their longest play from scrimmage was the 133-yard pass, right? And that gave them 3 points right at half. But I did show them that's complementary football. Defense blocks a kick, right, stops a field goal. We score a touchdown. We kick off. We stop 3-and-out, and that's what we can do, right? So we just got to do it for more consistency and in more areas than just one segment of a quarter, right? So that's very important. And then I think it's also important for us to realize, right? Like, I was furious on the 2-point play to Malik, because if we score that, it's a 15-point game with late in the fourth quarter. But we have, I believe, 2 of our timeouts, if not 3. And I know our guys felt that. I don't know if everybody felt that, but I know our team on our sideline felt that. So that was a very frustrating moment, because, again, that was one that I think we should have had another play. And then when it didn't, that kind of just was a microcosm of the whole day.
I know those 2 injuries at safety, what's that mean for your depth at the position?
Yeah, so Demetrius had actually kind of been splitting time between Free and Strong. But when we knew we weren't going to have Matt in the game for the first 2 games, we really had repped Clayton, Demetrius, and a couple other guys, Nicario, at that boundary. And then obviously Demetrius goes down on Thursday and Matt goes down on Saturday. But we have had a lot of guys get reps there. I think Nicario, obviously Clayton's got a lot of reps there. You could also have Miles. You have Clayton, Resetich. There's some guys that have gotten some valuable reps there. It's good we have that many people now.
A lot of other people have talked about Luke Altmaier for his toughness. Talked about, you've said that kind of all year since you got to drum. Is that recovering from this, come back from this? Is that part of that? Part of toughness.
Yeah, I think probably anything I had said at this point was the physicality, right? Like, he's a pretty tough kid, but I think he's a mentally tough kid. I don't think it's any secret to you guys have been around. Luke is a tremendous man of faith, right? And I think he knows the power and strength in him comes from outside of him, right? Like, and I think he'll lean on that right now more than anything. I think as coaches, as players, all we can do is support and improve him. I think Barry if he didn't say it in here, I think he'll be the first to tell you that he's going to do everything he can to make it better for him, right? And take a self-inventory as coaches of what we asked him to do or not to do and how we can make that cleaner. And then it's all going to kind of collectively come together to hopefully have him have a chance to play better football on Saturday.
That room is pretty supportive, too. That quarterback room seems to be with all those.
Yeah, I don't think they I actually had Tank in this morning. Tank and I talk every day after lift, so we have a lift group yesterday, and then they lift. They can have a voluntary lift on Monday, and he said literally in this morning's group, Luke Altmaier was lifting with John Paddock, right? And it's just now sometimes adults can't handle it that well, right? But usually the players can handle it very well.
The pass pro and maybe cleaning some of that up a little bit. Do you feel like the moves you guys made going into that?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, I again. Isaiah Adams, I made reference to it. You're right. He literally started at every position now, I think, except for center, and he does play center. But he had never really played on the right side in active games all that much. He'd always been on the left side, left guard and left tackle, and a little bit of right guard. But to pop out at right tackle and play the way he did against that was by far, you know, the most athletic front that we had played to this point. And for him to play that way, I think it's just a microcosm of why those NFL scouts are saying what they are about him. You know, I thought for him, and then Julian, obviously you probably saw that he had a little bit of a cast on, right? Like for Julian, I thought he did some really good things for being in that situation as well. Zai really had only played guard because he'd been repping a tackle, so I think that. Geske has continued to get better. I think Josh, this was his real first fire test with a team that was multiple and brought a lot of pressures and brought a lot of different things. So hopefully the results of Saturday, you know, success or failure, that galvanizes that group together a little bit better. And then I think Jordan Slaughter is another guy who continues to be impressive. And I tell you, Hunter Whiteneck did a good job when he was in there.
Offense, Barry said, has still looked for its identity 4 weeks in the season. Is that more just the way the games have happened, or what do you think needs to happen for that identity?
Yeah, well, for sure. I think when I always think of it this way, when I hear an opposing team talk about us, right? Like usually there's some commonalities that come out, and I just haven't heard that so far, right? So if our opponents aren't seeing it, then it tells me that nobody's seeing it. And you know, there's things that always fluctuate year to year, but I constantly harp on our building, right? Good teams do 3 things. They run the ball, defend the run, and cover kicks, right? And right now we really haven't done those 3 things. Obviously the kicks have been limited, but you know, we haven't effectively run the ball consistently for 4 quarters, and we haven't defended the run for 4 quarters effectively, in my opinion. But there were some really good things, some good positive things. You know, in the first 2 ball games, we had given up what I consider a big play, 20 yards or more, and we had 11 of those plays, and then several 19 and 18s on our defense. Through the first 2 games, and on Saturday we gave up 2 plays over 20 yards. We gave up a 33-yarder and I believe a low 20s. And that, for me, in football has generally been a good indication of you can have success. And no penalty fouls or no personal fouls on our defense. Yep.
What strides do you feel like you need to make running the football?
What strides?
Yeah, just
you know, I think the biggest thing, obviously, is just the production on early downs, right? Like everybody understands, you know, early downs to play ahead of the chains, to allow us to be in convertible 3rd down situations. I know we've been really close to making one break, and we just haven't been able to pull that through, like just literally an arm, one guy here, one guy there. Reggie, I thought, has been outstanding. I thought when I turned on the film on Saturday and then on Sunday, you know, that touchdown run being one case in point, like he literally was contacted at the 3-yard line, and he drug 2 guys in the end zone, and 2 guys are dropping on him. There's a couple plays that he read out and bounced around the edge and made enough, you know, early on in that first drive. He had a dead play where a linebacker shot through. He bounced around the edge and got a first down. Like just, I think, and, you know, Brett brought this up to me. You know, after the game, we select guys to come to the media, and Reg got out of there quick, probably had had people in town, and Brett reached out to him, and he said, literally, I just left. I'm already, you know, halfway home. And he turned around and came back to do an interview with you guys. Like, Reggie has just been so impressive to me since I've been here, and I just think people like that usually get rewarded in big ways eventually, and hopefully his day's coming.
Get a bigger responsibility in the run game, or do you still want?
Well, I think it's still a work in progress, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime you show, you know, not just your teammates but your coaches your abilities, right? I think that should increase, and we definitely. He started every game for a reason, right? Like he definitely has done that. He's probably played the most. Not probably. He has had the most snaps, right? the first two games, kind of how it played out, skewed that ball in the third and fourth quarter, and then obviously this past weekend, once the 2-point failed against Malik, now we're in strictly 2-point mode or two-minute offense the whole way.
How was Caden just handled just the volume with more reps, and what could that mean for him?
Yeah, I think he was excited last week. One of the things we talk about with players, right, when we had a couple things designed to get him in the game, and I just said to him, I don't need half of Arthur knowing that we're going to play. So he goes, no, Coach, I haven't told anybody. Even my mom, right? So I think he gets it. He understands it. And I think the part that's really fun for us with him and Aiden and Caden are both kind of uniquely different, but both of them have a really good skill set that I think, Aiden now is 2 games in a row now has kind of made a guy miss in space, and you're excited about what he does because you can see the confidence grow in both those guys, and they're always together.
What's it like on, and special teams, especially on kick return, been a little more aggressive in running the ball out. What do you like about the?
Yeah, well, again, Pat started off back there for us, and then Aiden had a nice, so we were kind of giving him some things. We really wanted to, we were trying to hit a counter return to the wide side of the field, and unfortunately, one of probably the hardest plays to simulate in football really is kickoff return, right? Just having the athletes that come down the speed and intensity they have, and obviously Penn State has a lot of depth, so it was blocked up nicely, except for one guy knifed through the middle of the formation. We got to have some ways to either clean that up or give that guy assistance. But Dish has been very impressive to me. We got the return game finally going in the punt game as well, and I think that brings a dynamic aspect to not just your team, but also just from an energy standpoint if it makes a good play.
What's it like for you to watch Johnny Newton? Like when you watch his film,
the
other day, like what?
If I think that first play is kind of a microcosm of our entire season at this point on defense. They get into a little bunch set on the boundary. They run a crack. They come down on Gabe, and Johnny probably recognizes that it's a pull by his guard, and the tackle's got him blocking down him. He's literally across his face before the ball carrier's got the ball in his hands. And what I've learned in defensive football, coaching the defensive line, those instinctive players see things before the snap, and he was onto something there, right? It's the first snap of the game. It's not like he heard a call or like he just recognized back was to my side, condensed split, and I think that's what popped it out. And then he's really the one that he came over top and then destroyed the play, right? There's some early down pass rushes that he just gets vertical in a hurry. Keith, I give a lot of credit to Keith, too. Keith had a pretty significant bruise, and he struggled during the week and stayed with it, and he's been a very productive player through those 3 games. And I think that's what we got to have is our best players got to play well in every game, and those guys have been a good example of that through the last 2 games for sure.
Caleb able to get some touchbacks. Was it more schematic that you saw? Not was he dealing with something that would have?
No, I think the first one, the first half, just wasn't a well hit. I think he'd be the first to tell you. And then coming out of that halftime, the wind had switched and was going that way. So we kicked with the wind. I wanted to be aggressive out of the start of the second half, and obviously that one was a mishit to our right. So. Yeah, but also we have David, literally if there was another one, I was going to put David in on the kickoff. So I think competition brings the best out of people. And then, the one thing I'd known about Caleb, there's a game last year where I was a little shaky and he came back stronger than ever after. So I would expect Caleb to be at his best this point forward. Thank you.
It'll be Florida Atlantic, Illinois, Big Ten Network, 3:30 game. And obviously the question will be how Luke Altmaier responds to this. Answer to that will be awesome to find out, according to Brett Bielema. Said he called his quarterback on Saturday night after that multi-turnover game to see how he was doing emotionally. We shall find out on Saturday afternoon. We are back on Big Ten Live with developing news that just broke about 5 minutes ago from Michigan State, just over a week after Mel Tucker was suspended indefinitely without pay by the university after allegations of sexual misconduct from Brenda Tracy, who had worked with the football program in the past. Alan Haller has issued a statement and informed Mel Tucker of, quote, their intent to terminate his contract with cause. Haller continued, this notification process is required of Tucker's existing contract. The notice provides the head coach with 7 calendar days to respond and present reasons to the athletic director and the interim president as to why he should not be terminated for cause. Now, it's important to note that there is an ongoing civil rights case at Michigan State. This action does not conclude That process, that investigation remains open, according to Haller, a rigorous progress that will continue. Now, you'll remember a hearing was originally scheduled for October 5th, and we believed that Tucker would remain employed until that date. However, now it appears that after this notification, the head coach has just 7 days to respond. In summarization, again, with the support of the administration and board, Alan Haller saying he has provided Michigan State head coach Mel Tucker with written notice of the school's intent to terminate his contract with cause. We will, of course, continue to update you on this story as new developments do arise. In the meantime, we continue with our coaches' press conference edition here of Big Ten Live as we get set to take you to Evanston. The Wildcats now 1-2 on the season following Saturday's 38-14 loss to the Blue Devils of Duke. To Evanston we go. Here is interim head coach David Braun.
You know, had an opportunity to come in this morning after an off day yesterday. Put the Duke game to rest. Plenty to learn from, you know, everyone included, you know, starting with me. Did not go down to Durham and play our best football. I think that was very apparent and something that, you know, we used as a growth opportunity this morning. Certainly a great deal of credit to that program. They've done an exceptional job. They're playing really well on both offense and defense. Quarterback is a high-end player. You know, there's reason for us as a program to identify the things that we need to get better at, while staying very optimistic that when we do get clicking on all cylinders, we have an opportunity to compete with anyone. You know, shifting into Big Ten West football, which this group is really excited about. Returning to Ryan Field against a very, very, very physical opponent that understands what it takes to win in the Big Ten West. Coach Fleck and his staff have done a tremendous job in his time there of really building the program and building an identity on both sides of the football that complements one another. There's no doubt in our mind that there's quite a challenge in front of us, but it will certainly embody what Big Ten football is all about, what Big Ten West football is all about. And you know, our guys are excited. Our staff is excited to be transitioning into Minnesota prep. You know, the guys will be back this afternoon for some install meetings and you know, a brief practice, and you know, then transition into our typical Tuesday. So you know, on to Minnesota.
Shelton from Wildcat Report. Coach, you've been on the road twice now with similar results. Did you see improvements from the team from Rutgers, and do you think being away from home is having an impact in these games?
Yeah, I think I'd be hard pressed to say that. You know, I've seen improvement since Rutgers day in and day out in terms of the performance and the way that we performed in that isolated 60 minutes down in Durham. I don't know if I could say that. You know, it wasn't our best. You know, when we pride ourselves on fundamentals and technique, and you know just our demeanor of play, that did not show up on Saturday. So opportunity for us to own that, challenge the group, challenge myself to be better moving forward. There's no doubt that in our 2 opportunities to play on the road so far this year, we have not started fast. We have not played well collectively as a group, and you know, excited to be back at Ryan Field. But you know, regardless of where we're playing, whether we're at home or on the road, you know, we need to perform at a higher level than we did on Saturday.
Coach, Saturday you gave up over 250 yards on the ground. Last year, Minnesota ran for 300 yards against this team. What do you have to do this weekend to get back on track in the run game and actually force the Golden Gophers into third and long situations and put the ball in the air? That's
a great question. You know, it sounds very cliche, but it all starts off with our fundamentals and technique. You know, we need to create knockback at the line of scrimmage. We need to define our gaps up front. We need to violently get off of blocks. We need to understand the fit structure that we're playing with and play with great leverage. And we need to tackle well. You know, it's easy to say all those things. Not always easy to do, especially against a very well-coached, quality opponent like Minnesota. as a staff, starting with myself, need to do a good job of putting a plan in place that allows our guys to play really fast, to change the picture up on their offensive line, their running backs, and their quarterback. And, collectively, we need to play complementary football. We need to trust all 4 quarters and understand whether or not we start fast or don't start fast. We didn't start fast against UTEP, but we played a full 4 quarters. We need to trust that, over the course of 4 quarters, we're going to find ways to get a lead. And at the end of the day, Minnesota, when they're ahead, is at their best. They are going to milk the clock. They're going to control the football. They're going to stay committed to the run game. We need to start early. We need to find ways to get them behind the chains and force them, to your point, of becoming one-dimensional and drop back and throw on the football, which they have the ability to do at a high level as well. But we have to find a way to get these guys out of their comfort zone, because when they're running the ball and leaning into their play action, they're a dangerous outfit.
David, you had I think 3 or 4 kickoff returns Saturday, which is it's the most in a game I can remember in a long time. Does that in any way show it maybe a change in philosophy? Are you just looking for a spark as opposed to taking the ball in the 25?
Yeah, I think part of it's looking for a spark. I think part of it is just the belief in that unit, starting with the guys that we have back as returners between A.J. Henning and Coco. Both guys have the ability to do some really good things with the ball in their hands. And, we're close. I mean, we're close. I mean, we're some of those returns, a lot of good things are going on. We're getting the ball out to the 30, and we're a block away from really springing one and flipping the field and giving our offense some advantageous field position. But I think to answer your question, I think it really comes back to a belief in the returners, a belief in that entire unit, and looking for a spark.
Coach, when you talked about the tackle element from this past Saturday, when you guys go into practice this week, do you anticipate changing anything fundamentally in terms of cleaning up those tackles, and how much do you kind of attribute to your guys and their tackling versus the play of a really good quarterback and a really good team?
Yeah, you're always evaluating how you're practicing. You're always willing to be honest with yourself and look to potentially change. I feel like some of those fundamentals in tackling have showed up in a positive light, earlier on in this season. Just because a few missed tackles showed up on film against a really quality opponent, you don't want to hit the panic button. It just really comes back to leaning into. We're going to carve out plenty of time for individual. Our position coaches do an incredible job of emphasizing tackling. I think it's a great opportunity for us collectively as a staff and as a program to, really hold ourselves accountable in terms of not only the way that we're practicing in Indy, but what type of position are we getting when we finish on the ball carrier in those practice settings, even against scouts? Are we tagging off, or are we getting in a great position where we can get a good thud? Those are things that I know our leadership and the guys within our locker room that do a great job of holding everyone accountable are going to certainly make sure that they're emphasizing this week.
Coach, you talked about your impressiveness with the O-line and tight end groups last week. How would you evaluate it after Duke's game?
I think it was not where we need to be. There were moments of production and process that it was exactly what we're looking for. Moving the line of scrimmage, moving the point of attack, staying glued to blocks through the whistle. Cam again in the run game showed the ability to be really efficient and explosive at times. Tough to take down. But there were moments against a really quality defense and a really quality defensive line where the standard that we expect out of that group wasn't met, and they know that. They're well coached behind Coach Anderson and Coach Jenick. It's a group we need to continue to lean on. There's continue to be flashes on Saturday of guys straining with great effort, especially out on the perimeter. Collectively as a group, we just need to consistently put that together, play after play, for a full 60 minutes. So, reason to be encouraged, but we're still chasing the standard.
David Braun and the Wildcats will be at home this weekend with the entire student body back on campus. Braun says he doesn't know what to expect, but obviously excited to have the students back. It is Wildcat Welcome Weekend. The incoming freshmen will be there along with the entire student body. Going to need all the support they can get against the Minnesota team that has had a ton of success against Northwestern in recent memory. So that will do it for the Monday lineup. Coming up on the Tuesday press conference edition at 2 Eastern, 1 Central, you hear from Ryan Day, Michael Locksley, James Franklin, Kirk Ferentz, and Michigan State interim head coach Harlan Barnett. Again, be interesting to hear from Barnett after A.D. Allen Haller issued the 7-day notice of Mel Tucker to respond, as the university does announce they plan to terminate Tucker's contract with cause. That news just breaking late on Monday afternoon.